Hi everybody, my name is Dave Marsh. I'd like to welcome you to this Matrix version 7.0 tutorial. Now before I begin, I'd like to mention that because each MLS has slightly different requirements, the system that we'll be using during this tutorial may differ slightly from the one that you're currently working with. Nevertheless, the functionality is the same, and for the most part, whatever you see during this tutorial, you'll easily recognize in your own system. Now I'm going to take for granted that everyone knows how to log into the system, so we'll start by inserting our user ID and our password, then click Login to begin. Alright, today we're going to take a look at the new agent features that were introduced in Matrix 7.0. Now for the most part, these updates are centered around the new client portal, so if you're not already familiar with this feature, you should really begin by watching the following 4-minute client portal overview video. Next, we're going to configure the portal by first customizing our personal settings, and then we're going to select how often we'd like to be notified of a specific portal activity. To do this, I'm going to hover over the My Matrix tab, then choose My Information. Alright, so let's start off by branding our printed documents, our agent web page, and our client's portal by using a specific theme. And to do this, we're first going to click the Header and Footer tab, and then select a template. Now, if you'd prefer to only display your default contact information and not use a background image as part of your branding, then you can either choose the no header and footer option or build on that using the basic template. But again, for this example, we're going to choose one of the many templates that already include a default image and color scheme. Alright, so let's begin by first adding our agent photo, as well as any additional details that we'd like to see pulled from the Information tab. Now below that, we're going to click the Custom Colors option to slightly modify the default color scheme, starting with changing the contact information background from transparent to mostly transparent. And while we're at it, let's change the default color as well. Now below that is the branding or contact information text color. And link colors apply to any email or website address that you also choose to include as part of your branding. But for this example, we'll keep the default colors as they were. The banner background color allows us to change the color displayed behind the header image itself. This color will only be visible to your customer if their screen resolution is wider than the actual banner image, or if you choose not to use an image in your header. Now after all of that, if you prefer to use a different theme, simply click the different banner link to return to the image options. Or click the upload link to use a custom 1600 by 120 pixel GIF or JPEG image of your own. Alright, with my agent header now configured, I'm also going to choose to include a footer as part of my printed documents. And just like the header, we now have the option of choosing the specific contact information to display, as well as which colors we'd like to customize. And with that, either click the Save button or start over by resetting the template to its defaults. Alright, so keeping with our portal configuration, let's click the Portal Profile tab to select the specific content that we'd like to see appear in the portal's Agent Information section. And we're going to start off by including a photo. Now this can be a company logo or perhaps an image of yourself, but regardless of what you choose, you'll need to either select it from your hard drive or from an existing image on the system. Below that is our portal greeting, and this can be anything from a friendly welcome message to a brief bio about yourself or your company. Now, if you have any listings that you'd like to share with your clients, these can also be added by selecting which group of listings to include from the Inventory Slideshow section. To embed a personal introduction or perhaps a property video from YouTube, simply copy the address, then paste it into the video section's URL text box. Alright, in this final panel, we're going to select the information that we'd like to see appear in the contact section of our portal's My Agent page. And again, these are the details that are pulled directly from our Settings Information tab, so you want to ensure that the information that you've entered there is correct. Alright, so once this page is configured and the panels that you want to see are enabled, click the Save button to update the portal. Now before we leave the My Information section, one last tab that you may want to update is the Agent web page. And for the most part, not much here has changed, but because your agent web page is now built on the same framework as your new client portal, you now have the option of choosing which information that you'd like to include on the About Me page. Now, if you're currently using the Matrix IDX on your business or personal website, then you may also want to take advantage of the new 7.0 responsive map design by returning to the settings section and then clicking on the IDX configuration link. And from here, you'll need to update the existing iframe values on your website from fixed pixel-based dimensions to the more fluid percentage ones. By doing this, map searches will no longer be restricted to a fixed area on your website. They'll expand to accommodate the full dimensions of your page. All right, so in the final part of this tutorial, we're going to complete our portal configuration by selecting how and when we would like to be notified of specific activity in our customer's portal. And to do this, we're going to return to the settings section, then click on the portal notification settings link. Now, as the name suggests, this is an area where we can choose to be notified when a client visits their portal, saves a favorite, removes a favorite, saves a possibility, removes a possibility, adds a note, saves a search, or visits their portal for the very first time. So for this example, let's assume that I'd like to be notified each time one of my customers visits their portal for the first time. I'd also like to know when they save a custom search or add a brand new note to a listing. And I'd like to be notified as soon as possible by having an email notification sent to whatever email address I currently have registered with my board or my association. All right, for the second example, I've just decided that I'd also like to be notified whenever any of my customers visits their portal in general. But instead of being notified by email, this time I'm going to choose to be notified as soon as possible by text. Now at this point, you'll need to configure your cellular details so that Matrix knows exactly where to send your text notification. And to do this, simply click the Edit Cellular link, then enter your mobile phone number, followed by your provider. All right, once this information has been added, click the verification button and Matrix will send a unique verification code to your phone. Now typically, the delay is fairly short, but if it takes longer than expected, first ensure that the information that you've entered is correct. And assuming it is, then you may need to contact your local service provider for support. Also, some carriers may prompt you to confirm that you'd like to receive an email to SMS text message. In this case, simply follow their on-screen instructions and the verification code from Matrix should appear. Now, once the code has finally been received, enter the verification numbers, then save your information. All right, before we move on, one thing worth mentioning about ASAP is if you've chosen to be notified whenever a customer visits their portal, then a notification will always be sent to you immediately. However, ASAP notifications for all other activities are only sent when no other notification has been sent to that contact within the last 10 minutes. For example, let's assume that my customer Dwayne has just visited his portal for the very first time, and I'm immediately notified of this by email. Now let's assume that within the next few minutes, Dwayne goes on to create and save a brand new custom search of his own. And then 1 minute later, he decides to add a note to a listing. Well, since I just received a Matrix notification a few moments ago, I'll now need to wait until a full 10 minutes has passed since the last notification was sent. The idea being that this allows for multiple actions during that time frame to be grouped together within the same notification. All right, for this third and final example, I've decided that I'd also like to be notified whenever any of my clients adds a listing to their favorite or possibility folder. Now, because these are considered actions that could easily get out of control by sending too many ASAP notifications throughout the day, I'm going to choose to be notified at the end of each day in a single daily summary for each activity. Click on the Save button and our portal notifications have now been set. All right, well, this concludes the Matrix 7.0 tutorial. I'd like to thank you for watching and hope that you can join me for another session. Take care.